Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Would like at this time to call to order our workshop. And we have some special guests. I want to begin by recognizing our Girl Scouts, Troop 6007. Thank you guys for being here and being part of all this process. It's exciting. We will begin with discussion regarding a memorandum of understanding for the hike and bike trail at 580 Sports Complex.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. That mic a little closer. We've actually been working very closely with Lampasas Trail. So this MOU in the packet that you'll find there, I've got a few points that I kind of wanted to talk through. But we've been working diligently to come up with a draft. Both our city attorney, their law firm, have been looking at this, and then there's been back and forth conversations. And so what you have is where we had left off most recently. However, I did talk with Mr. Martin, Lampasas Trails. There's still a few things. Again, this is a draft in here. But I wanted to point out just a couple items. So currently, to give a little bit of an update on what's been going on out there at the 580 Sports Park, they've really been working hard with their contractor, doing everything by the IMBA guidelines, which is the International Mountain Bike Association, and design criteria. So they've been following that. They've built approximately 2.2 miles so far. And between 7 and 8 miles is kind of what they were proposing to have finalized, at some point. The signage, just to give you a quick update on that as well. We've discussed signage. The city's looking at actually purchasing signage once we have defined, the types of signage we'll need. We'll need some directional signage for the trails. Some of those trails, talking with Mr. Martin, are two-way trails. Some of them will be one-way, so we'll need to define with directional signage what the right path is. Also guidance as you come into the 580 Sports Park, what that looks like as far as what's allowed. These are bike, basically bike and hike trails, not for horses, even though horses are allowed in the park. So defining some of those things and making sure it's clear. It's already, no motorized vehicles is covered, but signing again for that, in the 580 Sports Park, so it's clear when folks are out there. So those are some of the things we've kind of been working on. But a couple things within the MOU that I mentioned, wanted to just walk through a couple items real quick, if I could, with you. On page 1, we've got basically the purpose, and it's both parties want to memorialize going forward, what the expectations are, who's responsible for certain things. So that's kind of outlined there. And then you have the actual scope of the project under section 2, and talks about their volunteers a little bit, and that the work will be in compliance with approved plans, and obviously that's through the IMBA standards. And then section 3, the parties' responsibilities. One thing I'd point out again, just I can't reiterate that enough, is under item 2 on page 2, it kind of goes over provided training. So they had training days before they kicked off the sections that they kind of cleared and worked on and have improved. And so they've done work days. They've spent lots and lots of time out there. The Lampasas Trails group cleaning the trails up, trimming trees, making that safe. While they're following those guidelines. And then 5 through 8 on that page really kind of just gives you a background on, expectations on what can be cut, the types of trees that can be cut, what can be left as far as if there's ever a tree that falls on the trail. It's kind of, defined to where everybody knows what that expectation will be or should be. And so that kind of covers those types of things and how that's maintained along the trail. Page 3, one of the things I would point out again on number 12, item 12, basically it's an acknowledgement that yes, while this is a project area, it is a public park, and that's something that you really want to stress. They're well aware of that. Once the trails are completed, obviously it's open to public use and it's open to everybody, and so there's no real restrictions as far as that goes. And so I wanted to point that out. And then on page 5, basically item D here. So the effective date and termination. We felt like it's important while we're allowing a 30-day notice. Either party could say, there's some, either we can't carry on some maintenance of this, or the city makes a determination that there's something in conflict. There's a 30-day notice prior to being able to terminate this, but the initial, once signed and approved, would be a 3-year, or basically in effect for 3 years, and then in perpetuity, year after year, if everybody's still agreeable, but it would automatically renew for 1 year, and then automatically renew for another year. So I think those are some of the things that are important. The last thing I would point out, which is I believe the last sentence, it basically talks about, should a safety concern arise, then we could close the trails, try to remediate it as quick as we can. And if no resolve, or if that safety concern can't be removed, then the trails will be closed and terminated 30 days from that point. But given both parties the ability to, we'll work together on this project. I mean, they're doing the heavy lifting, obviously, getting it going. There would be at some point where city's going to have to come in there, and staff will have to do some maintenance of the trails, maybe trim some things, and make sure that we're keeping an eye on that as well. I know they'll be out there, and they've been really diligent, but also there would be, we'd need eyes on those trails at all times. So I'll stand for any other questions, or if you have any questions as far as more of an update, I would like to, after I answer questions, if Mr. Martin would like to come up and kind of talk to you about what all's been going on as well.
Page 3, paragraph 15. Can you add in there, something like Lampasas Trails will procure and maintain the insurance? It's talking about insurance, because it doesn't really say in that paragraph who is obtaining insurance.
Yeah, I think it's covered under responsibility. So at the start of that, Lampasas Trails responsibilities, it falls under theirs, but I'll take a look at that. Item 15. Okay.
And I also think that I think it's gonna be hard to keep the rodeo crowd off of those trails. And I think those trails need to really be, signs need to be really clear on where they can ride and where they can't.
Right. I would agree. I think even when you see it out on roads now, people don't always look at the signs, they don't pay attention, or they just totally ignore them. And so there's always that enforcement aspect too, though. But if we do have our PD actually patrols that area pretty closely. Obviously, they're not going to go back down the trail, but we've got park staff there during the day too. But you're right. I mean, that would be the critical thing. It's one thing to post for signage for certain things, or prohibition of different things, but it's another thing to make sure we're enforcing that and we're keeping an eye on it to make sure folks are abiding by those guidelines.
Does that also include motorized vehicles as well on the trails?
We'll need to post signs, but it already is covered as no motorized vehicles now within those areas, but we would need a sign for that.
Brian, on page 5, item D that you spoke about, effective date determinations, in regards to the renewal into perpetuity, I foresee no problems moving forward, but would it be plausible to possibly look at bringing it before council every 3 years, just to make sure that everybody's in agreement, that we're still good, instead of just saying we're going to auto renew this every single year?
Right. Yeah, I think it deserves a discussion probably every year.
At least a discussion.
Yeah, we can do that.
I think we need to have something written into our agreement with the rodeo folks where they do an update or present in terms of the activity of the arena every year. We don't always hold them to it, but at least there's some sort of reporting mechanism that we can include.
I think in the rodeo people, this is prior to my time. I'm not privy, unfortunately, I apologize for that, to any agreement that we have with the rodeo people. You know, that's something that we possibly need to look at as well.
I think some of the maintenance roads that exist now will be where we focus the horses, you know. So they'll still be able to ride back in there, but try to keep them off of those specific trails.
Mr. Martin?
Just an update on our end on the MOU. I haven't had our attorney look at the red line the second go around yet. The draft we wanted to use was 1 page with a signature page, and the first draft from the city was 12 pages after the red line. So we had sent through IMBA, we had sent some, I think 4 or 5 different examples of templates. Some were with the National Forest, some were with universities and stuff, and I think all 5 of them got added together. But the one that was most relevant was the one between a very large organization in the Midwest and a city. So it's 1 page and a signature page. So there's still some things I need to spend more of our trail money on to have my attorney review after this last set of red lines. But I was hoping we were just going to throw this one away and start with this one, to be honest. So, just letting you know kind of where we stand on the MOU. Because really, if you remember, we had one request when we came before council. We'd been out there for probably 4 years cutting trail and had 6 miles of trail, but it really needed some redesign and needed some signage. So, and then what happened was Frisbee Golf came in and laid a course right over the top of it that had 14 places where Frisbee discs were going to be flying over our existing trails. The new redesign added 3 more places where Frisbee Golf was going to be throwing right over people's heads. So, you know, we agreed to work with Frisbee Golf, and I hate they're not here because it's not even fair for me to be talking about it, but I just wanted full transparency as much as I could so y'all know what's kind of going on in the background. We agreed to work with Frisbee Golf to work through all this, but after seeing how much redesign it was going to be, they said, y'all just go ahead and build, and then we'll come in and lay ours out. Our concern with that is that we'll have already spent $100,000 and 100 hours of volunteer work per mile. So 600, 800 hours if we, you know, and almost 200 grand of money by the time they come back to the table. So what we've asked for in the MOU, really the only thing we've asked for was, can you protect our work? Like, we're willing to pay for everything. We're willing to do the maintenance. But we want the work, the investment to be protected. And if the city decides that you don't want to commit the land, or maybe it's just a portion of the land, to this project, that is okay. I am not trying to force my hobby on the city. But I also want some kind of peace of mind that all these people we have out there working on the weekend, their work's not going to be wasted later. Because Frisbee Golf and mountain biking go together hand in hand, but they're adjacent to each other generally. I've ridden my bike all over this country. I've never been on a mountain bike course that Frisbee Golf was laid inside of a mountain bike trail. So I do think it's something that we need to address before we finish, you know? And then, because by that time we've spent the money, spent the time, and we're just at the mercy of it happening again. We've built trail, and a new idea comes. It may be a great idea, but it was the second idea, you know? So that's all I'm asking for in this MOU, is to say you're going to protect our investment, and it got redlined out again. So I don't really want to sign anything, and I don't want to move forward committing people's time and money to the project if I can't give them some kind of peace of mind that it's going to be protected. So that's all I'm asking for. Just want some clarity around that. So
Does the Frisbee group, do they have a board that they operate from?
They do not.
They do not.
they're a great group of guys.
Yeah, and I don't doubt that. I just wondered how that they were structured, because I know you guys are very structured in what you're doing, and you're putting money into it.
And I think this board completely appreciates the work that y'all have put in and the structure that y'all have.
I appreciate that.
I was just wondering why that keeps getting redlined out, because I think that this group deserves, because they put so much work and money and effort into it, and I don't see how frisbees flying across people biking is a safe or smart thing. But I do think the frisbee golf thing is a great idea. I just don't see how it's going to lay on top.
Councilwoman McKinney, the real intent and kind of what we talked about in the beginning when we laid out the disc golf initially before we, got to the stage where Lampasas Trails wanted to improve, there was areas you're going to cross. There's just as many trails, that actually kind of flow through there. You can align and kind of move it to the one side or the other, or shift, kind of where you're throwing to. And so initially what we tried to do, and obviously there was some that it was a conflict, and so they were willing, hey, we'll move these over. But where you have good sight distance, and you throw across a trail, that's the key. You have enough sight distance so that it's safe. With the amount of trails shown, my hope is, because initially when we started down this path, we all sat down together, and I know the manager stressed it, like we've all talked about. We just want to make sure that they can, play well together, or at least function safely, in a safe manner, and still give the opportunity, like Shannon said. Not everybody's a mountain biker. Some people want to play disc golf. Some people, like to just jog around the park. Everybody has different hobbies that they like, and so our main goal is we want the two to collaborate, work together, and I know, like, Mayor, you were asking, the Hill Country Flyers is actually the group, but they're not a formalized group. So that there's a group, and that group goes around and plays disc golf. That hopefully answers that question.
Will there be an MOU with Hill Country Flyers as well?
There will.
And they'll be required to maintain the same insurance requirements as Lampasas Trails is?
I mean, ultimately, I'll defer to the manager on this. I would think we would need something in place, although.
I think we're too early in the process.
Yeah.
It's to be determined.
I mean, I believe that group right now, or last that we spoke, they were getting the baskets had already been donated. I think the concrete pads for where you throw from the tee boxes, that had been donated. So I think those types of things are donated, but it would be very similar to Lampasas Trails, because they're going to have to cut certain areas, to throw through. I mean, same kind of scenario. I think Mr. Martin's concern initially was, also, aside from throwing across trails, where they'd kind of set up some of their tee boxes was right along and using that trail because it was already cut, if I remember right. So there's some things that obviously they need to work together on and kind of figure out the dynamics.
I know it's going to be hard being a public park because everybody's going to benefit from it, but I do feel like we need to help protect Lampasas Trails investment, since they're until the disc golf group is a little more formalized and structured and have something to come to us with.
Yeah, the thing is, we're going to be done by the time they come back to the table, and so it's going to be hard for us to go back and redo. So that's why I feel like it's got to be protected, or you need to tell us to stop.
And I think as a council, that's something that we would take up and look at their proposal versus what's actually going on currently. Assuming y'all get to the point where you want to be, we'll take a look at it. everything's set in place, and it makes me very happy listening to that.
Thanks. And knowing that y'all know all this is good enough for me, really. Like, because a piece of paper that can be canceled 30 days notice really doesn't mean anything anyway. But knowing that you know what's going on and what's at stake later means a lot. But it would be nice to be notified. Like, we had 6 miles of trails out there, we weren't notified there was going to be a Frisbee golf course laid over the top of it. So there was no working with them. So they went out there and spent a lot of time too laying a Frisbee golf course over it when we could have been collaborating from day one. So it would be nice to be notified and have a seat at the table, you know, when it does come up again.
Okay.
I will add, without signage, it's going to be really hard to keep people off of bike trails, as you know, because me and you ran into each other out there. So.
I wasn't going to bring that up. But yeah, everywhere we go has signage, and we've been trying to get those signage. We're ready to sign the first 2 miles, and really even a lot of the old existing trail would greatly benefit from signage while we're building out the rest.
How many riders would you have out there at one time?
It's hard to say.
Okay.
You know,
Kinda,
right now.
can you give me an estimate?
Right now, it's like the best kept secret in town, and there'll be a dozen
Okay.
at one time. But if we do a really good job and it catches on, I mean, I can see a lot of hikers and, you know, a couple dozen bikers at a time.
And then on the Frisbee side, would you have a dozen, 2 dozen out there playing Frisbee golf at the same time?
I don't know, because New Covenant Church has a Frisbee golf course right now, and I think it's pretty well traveled, but I don't know. But
So you're just asking for just, what are you asking, what are you asking to add back into this?
I'm asking that to keep the protection of the trails in the MOU, so at least there's transparency. Even though you can cancel it in 30 days, at least everybody knows we've talked that, hey, we've agreed we're gonna, you know, have a seat at the table when a new proposal comes, and we're gonna do our best not to, you know, I think it was written as, you know, good faith effort that future projects would keep the trail safe, and we meant the dirt safe, the trail safe, but also the riders and hikers, you know, safe when they're on there. You know, we wouldn't want a shooting range out there either, skeet shooting things. So,
Or you don't want to get hit in the head with a Frisbee. Me either.
yeah.
Are you guys incorporated?
We are, yes, and we're under the International Mountain Bike Association's 501c3. That's how we've been able to, you know, to get the insurance and all those things.
Awesome, that's good.
So,
And right now the Frisbee, they are not hooked in with another group.
I don't want to speak to that.
And I think that's important. That whoever, you know, you guys are dialed in like that, and I think we need to have the same thing with our Frisbee. You know, good guys and not good guys. We need to have all the ducks in a row.
I do have one other question. I mean, would you feel comfortable and confident that we should move on with this entire project, or should we stop? Because, like, there's a dividing line where we could do 5 miles of trail instead of 8, and that would leave some land, you know, where we've still got trail there now, but we wouldn't be upgrading the trail. So if we think we can't,
In my opinion, I think you got the council support. Am I correct?
And I don't know that we can actually make a decision on that right now during the workshop.
okay. Okay. I guess just advise me what to do from here when it's appropriate.
Mayor and council, I think it's obvious we've got some work to do, and we will try to work as quickly as we can to bring something back to you the first meeting in January or perhaps the second. But we do want to do as Mr. Branch suggested and get the stakeholders around the table. Personally, I like the Blair, Nebraska agreement better as well, but it may not pass the mustard of legal counsel either. But if you can leave it in our hands for the next 30 days, I think we'll do what we can to get people around the table and get this resolved.
If it's possible at all, if I would like to be involved, be invited, however that works.
Thank you.
That's good. Thanks.
Are there any more questions for me? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion and progress and updates regarding 2023 city projects.
Okay, I'll begin with, and I'll run through these and try to just give an overview, but the first project update we have, obviously our business park had completed, minus our electrical engineering piece of it, and so I believe at this point we're probably 90% complete with the install of the original. So M&S is the engineers that put together the plan set. Basically, what we've got, or our staff has installed at this point, is the old county road that runs along the business park. Some of those poles were upgraded, and then into the business park on the main road through that connects 183 and the county road. So we have infrastructure there now, electrical that's already installed. What we're working on currently is the last piece that will basically make a loop. So you'll go down the front of 183. We've been in contact with Myers Cedar Yard for an easement across there and basically tie back in close to the monument business right there on the corner. And so that gives us a loop feed around that outside. So if we ever need to, if we have a business and something happens on one section, we can, reverse power to those other ones. So we're working through that currently right now. And feel free to stop me if you have questions on any of these, and I'll keep rolling through. Our ExecuTime software has been met with challenges. Obviously, when you implement a new software system, everyone's learning. Everyone's asking questions, so it's been a lot of effort on IT. We've spent a lot of time together working through some of these things. Thankful for Yvonne and her team because really they've kind of, taken on a lot of that workload. So at this point, we have it implemented. We actually went live. We're still currently doing paper timesheets alongside our digital timesheets. Just as a reference check, but hopefully today was a pull for payroll, and so that's where we've been trying to kind of finesse that and get everything working. But so far, for the most part, there's a few little things that come up, but it's functioning now. So the Hostess House remodel, we did get some updated floor plans. For the rescope project from Reliance Architects. Final plans and specifications are being prepared for review and bidding currently.
Is there a timeline on that?
About mid-December is when we were targeting, and I'll have to double check and see if I can get you an update.
US 281. So this particular project's a tech stop project. We had two items that were projects for the city, which was extension, or actually a bore of a new water line right alongside Naruna there, went under 281, came up over by Brown's RV park there, and that one was completed, as well as we had they purchased a little bit more right of way to make that Naruna intersection 3 lanes now, or it's 2 lanes now. It'll be 3 lanes. There'll be a turn lane in there when you come up to Naruna. Obviously both directions because it doesn't go straight. So the improvements on that required us to adjust one of our electrical transmission lines. Tech Line had done that work for us, and it's been completed. So on our behalf for TxDOT's project, they hate to ever kick a project off till all the utilities are clear. Everybody's moved everything, and so I think they were waiting on gas, and I'm not exactly sure where that is. However, the update for them to kick that project off is January, so about a month out. They've postponed it, and I think targeting, really kicking it off, which means impacts, to the citizens as soon as they kick that off. It'll be at some point down to 2 lanes, instead of the 4 lanes you have there now while they transition, back and forth during construction. So, Turner Field Sewer Extension. This was one that our water wastewater group actually did in-house. This was a fairly large project, and the goal of this project was to take the lift station right there on 580 East offline in gravity flow. That's an older lift station. There's a lot of maintenance to that. A lot of hours, checking that to make sure it's functioning right. So we've got that project complete, which really helps, everything out as far as how we maintain that. Fairview Drainage Study. This is actually about 95% complete. This study's, I think it had actually started maybe right when I got to the city, and I've been working with Jones C. Roy, one of their engineers. They've had some things that they've had to work through with some of the drainage areas, pulling different plans. It's taken a little bit longer. Some of the older plans that they're looking at drainage areas, which is upstream in the Stonebridge area, or the Mr. Finney's area. So that's kind of where it starts, and so the drainage study then flows to the south. And they've actually, I reached out. They expect to have us a preliminary report in January and then a final in March. So we'll know what the expectation is. What can we do to improve it? This is not a design set. This is basically an engineering study to tell us, what size channels might we need to put in there? Can we concrete this area and put pipe and take it underground? Or, how could we make sure that we remediate some of those drainage issues? So that's really what that project was all about. Lions Club equipment, very appreciative to the Lions Club. And actually, I had end of January, which I meant to put actually end of December, but they've actually finished that already. So they started it about a week ago. They've already finished. I've gone out there. I believe it's, I don't remember, I think it's 6 or 7 pieces of equipment. All pretty neat equipment if you get out there to look at that. It uses, your own force and your own body weight to do a lot of those exercises, chin-ups, pull-ups, leg presses. So it's pretty neat if you get a chance to go out there. They did a really good job. There still remains sidewalk to be poured around it. They'll pour sidewalk around it in an L. It actually sits up there close to the basketball court, between the sidewalk and that basketball court, so they'll pour sidewalk around it to kind of close that in. And 580 trails and disc golf, I think we've already discussed that one. If anybody has any questions on that, but I think we kind of talked through that one. 2023 paving projects. I always like to give council an update on what staff's done and our contractors keeping our pavement up as much as we can to a good state. Just a quick update on that. We did 1.85 miles this year of seal coat, and then mill and inlay was almost a mile. And those are, coming in and basically either grinding the surface off 1.5 inches or 2 inches down and putting a new asphalt surface on it. And then seal coat is spraying some liquid asphalt, putting rock on top of that. The seal coat we do in-house, so staff does that. They did a really good job this year. A couple of the roads, we rebuilt Briggs. Avenue B was an overlay. Western was half seal coat from the bridge headed into downtown, and then mill and inlay as you go back to 190. And then Sunrise Hills, as you go up that's one that's been on our projects list for a while, that entrance. We actually milled that pavement down, put new pavement in it. It kind of pushed and rolled a little bit as you turn into Sunrise Hills. South Pecans from 2nd to 3rd, Millen Inlay, East 6th, Key to Main Street right next to HEB. That one turned out really nice. What we tried to really focus on those this year was, and that's why we did Western, and that's why we looked at 6th Street to try to focus the monies on some of the most, traveled roadways we have. Everybody nearly goes to HEB, so you have that road used quite a bit, so there's a lot of average daily traffic on that one. So we kind of focused this year on higher volume roads where we could, with our overlays. And then seal coat, we did Hollywood, Hillcrest, like I mentioned, Western, Bridge, Naruna, Mockingbird, Hereford, and Sunflower. Second Street project is currently 90% complete. Reached out to the engineer. They're finalizing up the design currently. And the Second Street project basically is from Maine to Pecan, kind of maybe a little bit past Pecan right there by Ajinomoto. But it will cover a pretty, this will be one of the larger projects, at least we've done since I've been here. 3rd Street was a large project. This is going to be, not about the same amount of blocks actually, because we're going different direction, a few more blocks. Similar in the sense that it will be a total rehab. It's what we did on 3rd, but we will be doing all the sidewalks back. I think when we talked the last time, and the direction that was given to them was, make sure, the bike lanes and some of the comp plan stuff was included. So that's what they're kind of finalizing up.
Does that have to do with the drainage? Because didn't some of the drains collapse?
The drains have collapsed along the, I guess that would be the north side of 2nd. In that block from basically where the old post office is, that block going towards Santa Fe Depot. That it was an old structure that somebody poured in place, and the only assumption, we've kind of kicked this around internally, but probably when the post office was operational back in the day, people didn't want to step into the water along the curb, because basically what they did was just create a little drainage way and remove the curb so everything was flush on that side. So, and it's failing.
And that's part of the rehab, right?
Yes, yeah. The road will be the grade of the road, so the vertical grade of that road is going to be changed and modified. Take some of those humps out, flatten some things, but also take care of the curb and gutter, and that will be totally removed. So. The next item is the Calvert Building, and as part of the 2021 CO issue, the Calvert Building was earmarked for the exterior and basement improvements, and requests for qualifications have been advertised for exterior landscape improvements, and staff has initiated the scoping process for the basement improvements, which is lighting, wall finishes, fixture, and demolition. The next and the last project on the list was, as you may recall, the generation. So emergency generation or backup generators is what we were looking at. Initially, we'd gone out early, I think last year, for bids. They needed design plans, so we've been working with Snyder. When the bids came in, we were having contractors kind of walk through, tell us, what the cost would be, what they would do. But in essence, a large project like that, we needed to really have plans, so we knew exactly where the foundation would be for the generator, the conduit over, all those things factor into the cost. So we had Schneider engineers work on that, and they didn't quite finish, and it didn't really get to the design. They did spec the generator sizes for us, so we had that. And so we're currently looking at places to source used generators, talking with Kentner Water, as well as Central Texas. The last couple of generators they've purchased to run their systems as backup have been used. There's a lot of good vendors out there to purchase those used generators. Much like a car, you've got all the service records, so kind of what you're getting, how many hours it's run, and all those things. So we're working through that currently. I'll stand for any other questions or any other thoughts on projects.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion regarding any items on the regular agenda. And if not, can we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn the workshop session.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And you guys want to take a break, or do you want to continue on? 5-minute break. 5-minute break? Okay. Take a 5-minute break.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening, this great group of people, and this fine town. We ask that you be with all involved tonight. Help us all to make some good decisions, better your whole community and all your people. We ask that you be with us in safety, watch over us till we commit again, forgive us our sins, and as always, at this time of year especially, in Jesus' name, amen.
Please join me in the pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Citizens' comments? Any citizen who desires to address the city council on a matter not included on the agenda may do so at this time. The city council may not deliberate on items presented under this agenda item. And there is none. Citizens' comment. Any citizen who desires to address the city council on a matter that is included on the agenda may do so at this time. And there is none. 1.3, public hearing to consider approval, denial, or approval with modifications on the Northington Creek Estates preliminary plat described in parcel 8121, 48.13 acres, abstract 0042, John Burleson Survey, commonly known as 1206 Mill Street, parcels 8246, 8247, 8248, 31.83 acres, abstract 0042, John Burleson Survey, commonly known as 1705 East 4th Street.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The preliminary plat of Northern Creek Estates is currently being reviewed for consideration. The first step in the platting process covers the basics such as the features surrounding and inside the subdivision, the contours, the street names, the right-of-way widths, the easements, and the lot sizes. The subdivision consists of 79.917 acres and 272 lots. The zoning was approved in May of 2023. City water, electric, and sewer are available. Drainage sheets have been reviewed by Jones Hero and Associates, and you will see on my staff report that I have dictated about 4 reviews that have gone back and forth between the 2 entities. The traffic impact analysis was completed in August of 2023. It is currently being reviewed by TxDOT, and that will determine recommending timing adjustments for the signal to mitigate delays at 4th Street, as well as decel lanes, any left or right turns that may need to be added as well. So if you look through the review comments, I included all of them in your packet as well to kind of go through on your own. But page 46 kind of has a list of recommended plat notes itself. And they kind of entail a drainage easement for a channel flow, which is going to be on the east track C. We have a homeowners association that's going to maintain open spaces and drainage easements. All lots should be located outside the floodplain. The grading plan and drainage analysis showing that the streets and storm sewer system will be adequate. And then the finished floor shall be 2 feet above the base floodplain as determined in the firm map. And those are just kind of a various recommended plat notes that will need to be incorporated and things that we need to do as our review continues. Should you have any questions this evening, Shirley is in the audience for any additional questions you have regarding the preliminary plat.
questions?
No questions? Thank you.
And this item was approved through the Planning and Zoning Commission to recommend approval this evening as well.
Okay, thank you. 1.4, public hearing to consider vacating the Live Oak Acres subdivision plat described as 9.832 acres, LHW Johnson Survey, Lampasas, Texas, Lampasas County, that was approved in 1976.
Yes, Mr. Wayne Wolf, you see the letter that's included in your packet. He had requested the Planning Commission and City Council to vacate the Live Oak Acre subdivision that was approved back in 76, 77. It was a 9.832 subdivision plat that's comprised of 22 lots, 2 streets, and an alley. So at this time, he has no intention of developing as is. He would just like to put it back to the way it was prior to it being platted. And we did go through the review with the Planning Commission on December 7th, and they did recommend approval to council this evening.
Any questions? One point five, public hearing to consider approval of request to rezone property from a single family residential 6, SF6 to multifamily 2, MF2 apartments for property described as lots 10, 9, 10, 11, 12. Block 5, White's Addition on East Avenue J, FM 580 between Kessler and White Street.
This property, you may remember a few months ago we brought back to you where it was going from commercial to single family, and at this time the developers wanted to change course a little bit and wanted to rezone it from single family to multifamily apartments. So the property is currently zoned single family residential 6. The area is characterized as a mixed use. The property is surrounded by business, undeveloped land, and residential homes. All notification and publications required have been mailed by statute. We mailed out 8 notices to property owners within 200 feet of the applicant's property. To date, no letters have been received in favor of the request. However, we did receive 3 in protest. You do have 1 in your packet from the Millers, 1 laid on your dais this evening that is from the Browns, and then we have 1 that was just hand delivered to me this evening from the Karchers. For these 2, I can pass them around to you. I didn't make copies, I'm sorry, because I just received them. But this one, I will pass around to you for review. The other one I did lay on the dais, so you do have that. So I'll go ahead and continue through my staff report briefly. If you have any questions, please stop me. And as far as the comprehensive plan, this area is described as suburban mixed use. For suburban mixed use, it is a mixed use area to develop at a higher density or intensity, and for uses not allowed in the suburban residential classification. It is for higher trafficked areas and collector corridors. It's transitioning from residential to commercial areas. And then the appropriate land use for residential, they have a single family, industrialized housing, single family attached, duplexes, twins, triplexes, and quadplexes. That's how they have it defined. I do have a visual if you want to look to see what their vision is for the apartments. I'll be happy to pass that around as well. 5 on top, 5 on bottom. And then in your packet, I do have a layout as well. I'm going to show you the drive that's going to 580. I'll be happy to answer any questions that we have.
Any questions?
You say the comprehensive plan says that apartments is,
They don't list apartments specifically. What they list in here in my comprehensive plan is duplexes, twins, triplexes, and quadplexes, which is going to be either 3 or 4 units. So they do have a variety of multifamily. They just don't specify apartments per se.
What is the parking situation? Do they have that on the plan?
I'm sorry?
The parking as far as how they
If
plan
you
the
look
parking lot on that plan?
in your packet on page 56, it kind of outlays how it's going to sit. It's not a very pretty picture. But this one kind of outlaid how it was gonna look on there. So it kind of shows you this is gonna be your 580.
Okay.
Here, your kind of like your
580 is
umbrella.
top.
And so it'll have your parking in front and on the sides. And then this is gonna be your actual apartment units. So if you kind of offset a little bit, they anticipate having parking at the front, right on 580, basically, and you'll have two ways, one way in, one way out.
And they're talking, 10 units or?
Yes, just 10. 5 on the bottom, 5 on the top, and that's it. They've only got the 4 lots, so it'll.
How big are these units that they're talking? Any idea?
We haven't gotten to that stage yet as far as, I think they're all 2
10 units
bedrooms.
seems like a lot in that space.
I'm sorry?
10 units seems like a lot in that space.
Well, it's 4 lots, so keep that in perspective, yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, we have not, I mean, this is just a matter of rezoning. We have not gone to the actual development
Okay.
part of identifying the fit of the apartments, the look and feel, going through the plan review or anything. This is just the rezoning piece of it.
Any other questions? Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, this was, the planning and zoning that approved it.
Yes, ma'am.
And did they see the zoning process?
They didn't see the one from today. No, they did not see those. Because those were just received today from Brown and from Parcher, Geneva Parcher. They were just dropped off today, so they had not seen those.
2.1, discussion and possible action concerning the approval of minutes of the regular
106.
meeting held on November the 27th, 2023.
We have 1.6. Yes, sir.
Sorry. Back up to 1.6. Public hearing to consider request and rezone property described as W, half of Lot 2, Block 2, east of Lampasas Addition, Lampasas, Texas, Lampasas County, commonly known as 1011 East Bridge Street, from commercial C to single-family residential 6, SF6.
So this property here is currently zoned commercial, and they want to rezone it to single family. The property is, the area around it is kind of characterized as mixed use. There is going to be property that has single family homes there as well as commercial property. Staff did mail 22 notices to property owners within 200 feet of the property. We received 1 letter, and you can see in your packet it was not necessarily signed or anything. It was kind of a verbal that it's okay. And then I did receive 2 verbal phone calls inquiring about it, and they didn't have a problem. But I now have nothing in writing that says they protest or that they are in favor of this request. As far as the comprehensive plan, this is an area is described as a traditional residential. And it's revitalizing part of town, which embodies some of the original characteristics of the older core areas of the city that lack the urban character. As you can see in your packet on page 66, I do have a layout of what it looks like today. So it's the old church building that is there, and their intent is to have this refurbished into a home. So they do have a lot of work to be done, but that is their vision at this point, and that is what they want to do. This did go before the Planning Commission on December 7th, and they did recommend approval.
Any questions? Thank you now, Becky.
Thank you.
Discussion and possible actions concerning approval of minutes of the regular meetings held on November the 27th, 2023.
I didn't see any corrections, recommend approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda, discussion and possible actions regarding the purchase and charges in excess of $4,000 from November the 1st, 2023 to November the 30th, 2023.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
3.2, discussion and possible action regarding October 2023 investment report.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda 3.0, 3.1, and 3.2. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Boards and department reports, routine matters, city manager's operational report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a few brief comments. We are moving forward with fulfilling two pretty important city positions: the Deputy Chief of Operations for the Fire Department, as well as the Golf Course Manager position. Both of those openings are moving forward as soon as maybe even this week, with some sort of culling and maybe interview process for the fire department position, as well as the golf course manager position. I think we've got a good pool of candidates for that position. The one thing that I would ask you to consider is we will probably, for the golf manager's position, have a panel format for the interview, and we'd like to include a golf association board member and one council member, then plus staff. So if there's a council member that would like to sit in on those interviews, I would like to have one of you, I guess is what I'm saying, if somebody would like to raise their hand.
I'd be more than happy to do it.
Without objection, I'll have Councilman Member Prattis join us for that process. That could be as soon as late this week or first part of next week, depending on how we can get it scheduled. Year-end pleased to report that Yvonne has closed out the financial entries for FY23. We do show a slight surplus of about $200,000, and I think we certainly had, certainly some things were going on that made me a little bit nervous. Water sales, particularly in light of drought and conservation, the electric rates, which we've talked to council about, the change in the electric market, as well as the cost of reliability and volatility in the market. We continue to have some issues with materials and supply chain issues. I think when Ryan gave his report, there were a couple of pretty shining examples of that: waiting for poles for the business park, waiting for designs for generators and business parks. So things are still a little bit stacked up. Typically what we have done is we've taken the information and tried to distill it into a report for you. We'll plan on delivering that report. That'll give you a little bit more comprehensive look at the city's financial performance, first or second meeting in January. Eclipse, Chief Smith conducted a successful tabletop meeting with staff on November 29th. We took a look at protocols for the day of the event, and we also threw out several hypothetical incidents that staff was asked to react to, and how do we set up for and how do we prepare for. I think one thing that I did point out is we still have work to do, and I think staff is dedicated to making sure that we are completely ready. I think we've gotten an excellent start on that. I also wanted to mention that Stacy Barr has also been in contact with Travel Texas, the state tourism office, for some additional advertisement and sharing of information about the Lampasas sites and the Eclipse. Would also like to remind you that this Wednesday, 6 p.m. at the old middle school, we will be holding a town hall meeting to provide not only updates from the city, but our other partners here in Lampasas. So please, if you can, attend that. It ought to be good fun. Community lunch. Chief Smith reported we had somewhere between 400 and 500 people attend the annual community lunch at the fire department. That is really organized by the Lampasas Fire Department, the Volunteer Fire Department, and the Police Department. And it's used to ultimately raise funds and to collect toys for distribution in the community. And of course, it's always a good time. It's good fellowship, and it's good to see everybody down there. This year, approximately 125 to 150 bags were prepared that should end up serving about 400 kids in our community. The actual distribution will be on December 16th. Staff is pleased to recognize the following employees who began their City of Lampasas careers in December: Shanda Suvia, 17 years, Courtney Owens Ramp, 1 year, and our own Yvonne Moreno, 26 years.
Wow.
Thank you.
Congratulations. had a few comments I wanted to make tonight as mayor of Lampasas. I'm just, as I sit back, we close out the year, and this is our last council meeting here for this year. And I sit here and I'm so thankful as I think about this council, I think about the staff, and I think about our citizens and all the stuff that it takes to make this city run. And I'm more than blessed. You know, I think about our skate park, our LAFTA, Vision Lampasas, the Lions Club, the museum board, our bike trails, Lampasas Gardens, and I know I'm missing a whole ton. The Boys and Girls Club. And I really thank these girls here, the Girl Scouts, for being here tonight. You guys and the Boy Scouts and all of these groups make a great town. And I am so honored to be a part of Lampasas. I had a Christmas poem that I heard from Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Anybody ever hear this guy? From 1807 to 1892. And I'll just, it's kind of a little Christmas cheer and a little bit of a blessing. I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat, "Oh, peace on earth and goodwill to men." And thoughts on how the day has come, the belfries of all Christendom had rolled along the unbroken song of peace on earth and goodwill to men. Till ringing, singing on its way, the world revolved from night to day. A voice, a chime, a chant sublime of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then from each black accursed mouth, the cannons thundered in the south, and with the sound the carols drowned on peace on earth, goodwill to men. It was as if an earthquake rent a heartstone of a continent and made forlorn the household born of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And in despair I bowed my head. There's no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song on peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then pealed the bells more loud and deep. God's not dead, nor does he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men. And with that, we will go into our new business of 7.1, discussion and possible action to take to consider approval or denial or approval with modifications of Northern Creek Estates preliminary plat described as parcel 8121, 48.13 acres, abstract 0042, John Burleson Survey, commonly known as 1206 Mill Street, and parcels 8246, 8247, 8248, 31.83 acres, abstract 0042, John Burleson Survey, commonly known as 1705 East 4th Street.
Mayor and Council, this item was discussed during public hearing. At this time, I'm asking to consider a motion to approve, deny, or approve modifications to the Northern Creek Estates preliminary plat.
I make a motion to approve the Northern Creek Estate preliminary plat described as parcel 8121, 48.13 acres, abstract 0042, John Burleson Survey, commonly known as 1206 Mill Street, in parcels 8246, 8247, 8248, 31.83 acres, abstract 0042, John Burleson Survey, commonly known as 1705 East 4th Street.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Council.
7.2, discussion and possible action to consider vacating the Live Oak Acres subdivision plat described as 9.8 32 acres, LHW Johnson Survey, Lampasas, Texas, Lampasas County, that was approved in 1976.
Mayor and council, this item was discussed during public hearing, and at this time asking to consider a motion to vacate the Live Oak Acre subdivision plat described as 9.832 acres, LHW Johnson Survey, Lampasas, Texas, Lampasas County, that was approved in 1976.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. 7.3, discussion and possible action to consider approval of a request to rezone property from a single-family residential 6, SF6 to multifamily 2, MF2 apartments.
Mayor and council, I did notice that on this agenda item, I did put my public hearing in here twice instead of the request to rezone it. However, this was discussed during public hearing, and at this time, I'm asking for consideration to approve, deny, or approve with modifications the request to rezone property from single-family residential 6, multifamily apartments from property described as lots 9, 10, 11, and 12, Block 5, White's Addition on East Avenue J, between Kaysville Street and White Street.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed. 7.4, discussion and possible actions to consider a request to rezone property described as W half of Lot 2, Block 2, East Lampasas Addition, Lampasas, Texas County, commonly known as 1011 East Bridge, from commercial C to single family, residential 6, SF6.
This item was discussed during public hearing. At this time, I ask you to consider a motion to approve the request to rezone property described as the west half of Block 2, East Lampasas Addition, Lampasas, Texas, Lampasas County, commonly known as 1011 East Bridge Street, from commercial to single family, SF6.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, council.
7.5, discussion and possible action to engage Viking Film Works for professional photos and videos to promote and market Lampasas on various social media platforms at the shared cost in the amount of $2,500 with the Lampasas Economic Development Corporation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item is to purchase professional photography and videography with Viking Filmworks. They have a really good reputation in the business. They specifically do it for targeted EDC and tourism videos. So right now we would be getting those pictures and videos that would be utilized for tourism, but then also for EDC we'll get some great shots of the industries here in Lampasas, so we can utilize that. But in regard to the council, $2,500 of that would be through hot taxes, which is what is before you tonight, and it's conditional on the EDC, my board approving it at the meeting in January. Do you have any questions? And it will include 2 days of filming, still photo, video, and drone footage, business interviews if possible, so we'll get actual snapshots of different business owners here in the community talking about Lampasas and what it's like to work here, so that we can utilize that. We'll go on the EDC website, the city's website. We'll let the chamber be able to utilize it as well, and just doing looking to go into different outlets to be able to market Lampasas. I really found we need more professional photography and high resolution photography for us to be able to market.
I make a motion to engage Viking Filmworks for professional photos and videos to promote and market Lampasas on various media platforms at a shared cost in the amount of $2,500 with the Lampasas Economic Development Corporation, conditionally upon LEDC approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm just curious, so is this the only company that you guys talk to?
Huh?
Is this the only company you guys talk to?
No, I've reached out to others, and I'm also in the industry, kind of getting some information on who to go toward. And Viking, they are gonna provide the best quality for the price range. The other companies, it ranges about like 15,000.
I don't guess I really understand what this is for.
Right now, the pictures that I have they're not professional photography or high resolution. So if we're gonna be doing something even along the lines for Travel Texas tourism or getting Lampasas out there to advertise for people to come to Lampasas, to be able to do that, you have to have high resolution photos. And then also with our website, it's filled with stock photos. And stock photos, any site selector can kind of see that it is stock photos. So being able to actually have pictures of Lampasas that are high resolution and that's showing the industries here, it's gonna be a good tool for us to be able to attract businesses.
So people don't come to Lampasas because we don't have high resolution photos?
It's just about furthering what we already have.
What other companies did you reach out to?
SoundCloud, and then there's Jason Deckman. He's in Salado. He works in Temple, and he would provide a cheaper package, but it's going to be not the same quality. So this is kind of in the middle.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.
Seven point six, discussion and consider a mutual aid agreement between the City of Lampasas and American Public Power Association Incorporated.
Mayor, Council, this one is a mutual aid agreement that basically outlines and gives guidelines to how, if we were to ever need some sort of assistance, some help, you know, kind of following, not necessarily, but similar to FEMA guidelines. It's the American Public Power Association. And this group, in this particular mutual aid agreement, is for most likely out-of-state resources if there was ever some major disaster. And it just kind of outlines how things will be reimbursed to those entities that come in to help us. And so it's kind of a safety net. TPPA is who we have our normal mutual aid agreement with, which is our Texas Power Association. Locally, this one pulls from outside, you know, of the state resources. Most of the time you're going to see these types of needs, you know, if a hurricane hits down on the Gulf or something where it's impacting a large area, and you see a lot of help coming from, you know, Florida and Georgia and up north, you know, in Oklahoma or wherever those individuals come from. This just kind of outlines that. In the instance we ever really need that, there's no obligation. It just outlines how that will be paid if we ever need that help.
I'll make a motion to approve a mutual aid agreement between the City of Lampasas and American Public Power Association Incorporated.
Any discussion? Any questions? All in favor?
Thank you.
7.7, discussion and possible actions regarding the selection of qualified contractor to design and install landscape features and irrigation at the Calvert Municipal Building.
Mayor and Council, I believe 2, perhaps 3 meetings ago, I brought to you a draft request for qualifications, which is a method of procurement we can use if we want somebody to actually do everything design as well as do the construction or installation of. And the reason we choose this method is because we'd originally received a quote for design services. The typical way is you would get a designer to design and put together the plans and specifications. The one quote we got was on the order of $10,000 to $12,000, and we felt like I felt like that was going to be probably as much as 30 to 50% of what this project cost would be. That's why we went to the RFQ, so we could give one person the opportunity to basically GC it, get it designed to our satisfaction, get it scoped to our satisfaction, and then we would bring a contract back to council for your consideration that would include the scope of the project, the specifications for the plant materials, the installation, etc. We advertised RFQs and received only one back. We did receive two on-site visits. That was after we advertised the RFQ, as well as I know Becky sent it out to 17 individual landscape and irrigation companies. So it didn't garner a whole lot of interest, but we did receive one back which we felt was qualified. The qualified submittal was from Wright's Green and Clean, TJ Wright. And what we would ask you to do tonight is give us our marching orders to go and complete the scope of the project, get a cost, and bring a contract back to you for your consideration. Is there any question? And I didn't even touch on the project, which we talked about when I originally, but the RFQ is basically for the landscaping from this corner of the building to wrap around in front of the municipal court and even the old council chambers. So almost to the PD, just this corner area.
There's nobody else interested in bidding it? Just one company?
One submitted their qualifications. And Councilman Hernandez, if we had had a set of specifications, there may have been more interest. I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the hesitations maybe by qualified contractors is I've got to put some work into this without knowing what the payoff is, and if that margin on a $20,000 or $30,000 job is this, so I really want to spend this much time or this much more time in terms of developing the scope and working on design. That's just...
So this is kind of more of a design build type.
Yes, I would say so.
And this is just a negotiated scope.
Correct.
We're not spending any money.
Go ahead and make a motion to allow staff to negotiate a project scope to include schedule and deliverables for the landscape design and installation project at Calvert Municipal Building, and to bring negotiated scope and contract back to council for consideration.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to get a motion to adjourn into executive session.
I make a motion to adjourn to executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Mayor, you might read the agenda topics for executive session.
In 8.1, consultation with attorney by telephone and or in person concerning matters upon which the attorney has a duty and a responsibility to report to the governmental bodies and other legal matters related to items posted on the council's agenda, if any. Personal matters to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment duties of city manager and other personnel matters as allowed by Texas Government Code, Chapter 551.
And I'd ask that Brian Ward and Becky Sims be included in 8.1 without objection.
Nothing coming out of executive session this evening. We can have a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Let's go home.